What's up, everybody? This is Connor Williams for the Los Angeles Rams running back, and I'm tuned in with the Fantasy Football Counselor.
Welcome to the show, guys. Got a really good one here for you today. We are talking about auction drafts, how to win them, what are they, how exciting are they, all about them, full strategy to help you guys dominate auction drafts. Here's the cool thing. You don't even have to be drafting in auction drafts to enjoy this show, because we're going to be talking about some of the budgets of some of your top players. What is CMC worth? What is a Keon Coleman worth? What are some of these players worth? And that's really going to tell you their value, and it's going to really translate over to a typical standard snake draft style. So it's going to be a really informative episode here. People kept asking me, can you do something on auction drafts? Here it is, guys. Practical, tons of information. We're going to dive into some of the values of these players at the end, so you guys have an idea. Oh my God, if CMC's worth $65, for example, in a $200 budget auction draft, right? That really shows, wow, it makes sense, right? Like he's a first overall pick. So it's just a good way to kind of gauge their auction value and kind of cross-reference it with the typical snake value. So 5 tips here, guys, on how to win auction drafts. Super excited to dive into this show. Super excited. Guys, it is draft season. This is it. This is draft week. Never mind draft season. So we got this weekend, and some people draft the weekend after, but most people do their drafts this weekend. I had to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. So it is a fun show. If you guys are driving, I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to make it interactive. If you're new to the channel, guys, hit the thumbs up. Smash it, tap it, slap it. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Lion mentality. Where's our lion here? Where is he? There he is, guys. The lion is here, man. Dude, I'm super excited for this season. Hit the thumbs up and, of course, grab the 16-round draft solution. Does it help you with auctions? Some people ask. And the quick answer is yes. Now, it's not specifically designed for auction, but what you're going to do is once you guys see all these tips, like, for example, nominate players that you don't want, you're going to know which players you don't want, which players are good, which players you should be going for. So 16 rounds gives you all those optimal players. So make sure you guys do grab the 16-round draft solution. It'll put you guys light years ahead of the sheep in your league, aka the consensus, the consheepsis, all right? So grab 16 rounds and hit the thumbs up. Let's dive into it, okay? So let's talk about auction drafts, okay? Because I remember when I first got into fantasy, this is probably when I was getting into it, like, seriously, I don't know, around 2010, maybe give or take a year. And auction was actually the first format I played. And that was like, so it's like, imagine getting into something new. And it was like, okay, that was what I played first. It was like auction draft. And then somebody introduced me to snake draft. I'm like, this is weird. I thought it was all about the auction. I didn't even know there was a snake draft before I knew there was a snake. Like, I had no idea. This is right when I getting into it, right? I'm like, snake draft, what is this? I like auction better. And then I just kind of gravitated to snake, and that's kind of been the standard, and more people do that, right? And here's the thing. Why I like auction, why it's different, okay? It's very simple. There's no waiting on a turn. It's like you're in the action all the time. That's why I like it. It's like when someone bids a player, that might be the player that you want or the player that you don't want. And there's so much interaction you're in. Like, you can't even go to the bathroom, right? Because you're like, man, I don't want to miss anything, right? Whereas a snake draft, 2 things I don't like about it. Number one, there's this waiting period, and I don't like those slow drafts, like a 2-hour, 6-hour slow draft. I don't like that. I like 60 seconds or 30-second clocks, right? Even a 60-second clock in a 12-person league, you're waiting, right? If everyone takes the full 60 seconds, you're waiting. That's like 12 minutes, right? To come back to you, 11, 12 minutes. So I'm like, so that's one thing I don't like about, snake draft. That auction is exciting. You got all that action. And number 2 is like, okay, let's just say I get a 12th pick, and I really want Breece Hall. I did actually 6 out of my 7, actually all my leagues. The highest draft position I had was 6th. I got by Jan in that league, but literally, man, I was drafting 8th or 10th or 12th in 6 of my big money leagues. So I had no shot. Even if I wanted CMC, I couldn't get him. And that's one thing about auction, that if you really like a player, you can get them. There's also a lot more strategy. I mean, just strategizing, managing your budget, right? Knowing the values of players. There's such an exciting element to auction drafts. So that's why I wanted to do this video to talk about it and just put in my 2 cents on what I think about auction drafts. Because again, I like them. I enjoy them. I'm just not in enough of them. No, not enough people do them. So auction drafts, let's dive into it, okay? So first tip. let's get to it, guys. Again, hit the thumbs up, guys. Let me know. Are you guys in the auction drafts? Obviously, you clicked on this video, so it must mean something to you, but let me know what you guys think. Do you like it? Which one do you prefer? Let's drop a comment below. Let's make it interactive. Hit that thumbs up, okay? So tip number 1, establish a clear budget. This is very important, and stick to plan. This is very, very, very important. So typically, like I said, most auction drafts, depends on your league, it's a $200 budget. Again, 60%, typically 70% may go to your cornerstone players, the players that you really, really want, your 1 to 3 stars, right? So you got to kind of have an idea going, let's say if you really want Breece Hall, you got to know that, hey man, I really want Breece Hall, so I'm going to have to pay for him. So I'm taking a look at the current value of Breece Hall. He's $47 typically. This is like a typical give or take. A CMC is $65. So I told you I'd talk about values in this show. I will. So let's just say in your mind, you want Breece Hall and you want Zamir White, right? Zamir White is typically give or take $18. And then you want to get a sleeper, let's say like a Bucky Irving at $2. Then you're like, okay, I can spend $47 on Breece. I can get my Bucky Irving later. I'm good, right? So you got to have an idea on your budget based on the players that you're drafting. This is very, very important, guys. Establish a clear budget and stick to your plan, meaning don't overbid. So let's just say, and you should have a backup plan. So if you want Breece, you should also want Byjan, right? Byjan's $46.47, and Saquon's $41. So let's just say you're on Breece and you have a set budget. I'm like, I'm going in to spend $47 on Breece, and they keep bidding up, right? Like some guy, because I heard one guy, I did a private call with some guy. We're talking about auction. I'm like, well, what if you get some of these guys for deals? He's like, well, I don't get them for deals because there's this guy in my league, and all he does is he drives up the budget of everybody. So it's actually at the cost of what that player should be going. So you'll never get a deal. So CMC is typically coming off at $65 at all the drafts. This guy in his league makes sure that you're paying full price for CMC. So it's really annoying with some people in budget. That being said, there is some annoyances to this as well. So know your budget, guys. Stick to plan and don't get caught in bidding wars that will ruin you, okay? Number 2, very important. I did this a lot in auction when I did do it years ago, is nominate players you don't want. This is where the 16-round draft solution is going to help you a lot, because you're going to know the players that are going to bust, right? Like last year, if you had listened to my stuff, I told you don't draft Eckler, don't draft Pollard, don't draft T. Higgins, don't draft Mike Williams. There's certain players that I've had years to wow, so we're not wowed. I've filtered it out. I've narrowed it down for you. So guys, grab 16 rounds so you know who those players are, and you can have a printable cheat sheet on these players. So that's where it's going to help you. But you definitely want to nominate players that you don't want. Let them spend again, kind of that annoying guy, so maybe now you're that annoying guy, right? We talked about, like, let them spend. Don't let them get away with spending. Now, again, that annoying guy, the guy said that he does it to every single player. I'm specifically going to drive up certain guys in my league I don't like, or that annoy me, or players that I just want to see people overpay for. So I'm doing it typically. I'm nominating players that I think are going to bust and driving up their value, right? Which we're going to get to in a second. What bidding up players called. We'll get to that tip later. But you definitely want to nominate players you don't want. So like I said, I'm not big on CMC this year. So if I'm first in queue to nominate, I'm going to nominate CMC. Okay. I'm just going to do it. Let them blow their, whole wad on Christian McCaffrey. Now I'm going to be aware that these guys are spending their money, so they're going to have less money to play with, right? So you want to nominate players you don't want, and then try to drive up the price, but do not get caught, paying and getting the player you don't want. This is very huge, so there's a caveat to this. Yes, you want to drive up players' values that you don't want, nominate them and drive it up, but you also don't want to get caught with them. So I kind of brought it up in increments, got to feel. Once you see the bidding is slowing down, then you got to be really, really cautious, okay? So nominate players you don't want, drive up the bid, but don't get caught with the players you don't want. This is crucial. The last thing you don't want is having a player that you don't want, okay? Very important. Tip number 3, all right? Monitor budgets and roster spots. We talked about having a clear budget, but you want to monitor other people's budgets and roster spots. In other words, if Frankie spent $100 on CMC, you got to be aware of that. And then you're in round 5 and Frankie blew his whole wad on his first 3 players and he has $10 left. you could probably outbid them on a lot of players and look at other positions that are available. Does this make sense, right? You got to be able to easily, and this lets you easily bid on players when you know other people's roster spots, what they need, and how much money they have. So monitor other people's budgets and roster spots. Other people. That's the main part of this. Okay. Again, this is very, very important. You're able to see the needs, and when you're bidding on somebody, you say, "Oh, I see Frankie getting in on this bid. Maybe he's just trying to bring my bid up." So you just got to be aware of that. It's more of an awareness thing. Okay. So know what other people are doing. Number 4, stay patient and stay aggressive. What does that mean? Okay. Pick your moments. Don't feel pressured to overpay. Now, I wrote an article on this, link below. I'm going to link an article below on this so you can read up on this. There's more detail on these tips, and there's more tips to be had. And also, you want to be aggressive on players that you do actually want, okay? So again, people are going to be doing the same things on you. They're going to try to outbid you, or they're trying to, bring the value up, or nominate players they don't want and try to make you pay max budget. Again, it's a total strategy feeler type thing, but you got to stay patient, pick your moments, and also go for players you want when you need to. You do not want to miss out on those players that you love. And so again, in other words, don't be too cheap. Okay. I understand you have this budget, but you need your star players. Okay. You want to build your team around the star players. All right. So for example, I look at this, I really want Bijan. If I'm willing to go 46, sure. I got my ace running back, right? But if you go, Bijan and Henry, right? Now, this is what I would do. I would still go my 2 running backs because I still see a lot of value at running back later. I'll give you an example here. Brian Thomas Jr. is $4, right? Ladd McConkey is $4. And those guys are 2 wide receiver ones. So he paid $8 for 2 wide receiver ones instead of getting CeeDee Lamb at $58. And those guys could outperform CeeDee Lamb. I know it sounds crazy, but don't sleep on them. Keon Coleman, what's he sitting at here? I love Keon Coleman this year, man. He's going to go off. He's free. I'm looking at a current, he's free. Keon Coleman is pretty much free, right? Or $1. So again, you got to know who the sleepers are because you're going to get value later. So if you feel that wide receivers, guys, are going to be cheap, go running back early. If you feel there's some cheap running backs, go wide receivers early. Again, going back to what tip were we? Tip number 1, have a clear budget and monitor it. Know what you're going to spend. Lay it out. Have an idea. And that's where 16 rounds is going to give you all the optimal players so you know which players you're targeting. Okay? So it indirectly helps you with auction. Okay? Last one here. Again, smash, tap, and slap it here. Let's get to the last tip here. Bid up price enforcers, what I think they call it. Okay? So what you want to do, guys, is and I got a bonus tip for you here as well. You want to bid up other people. Like we talked about, inflate. This is what you want to do. You really want to focus on doing this. Okay? We talked about it a little bit in nominating players and then doing it, but we really this is the tip, actually go and do it. So bid people up, get as high as you can without overpaying. Very, very important. I'll give you guys a bonus tip here. Secure your studs. Do not forget to secure the guys you actually want. Don't forget, while you're doing all this bidding and nominating people you don't like and getting into these don't do the bidding wars, but while you're thinking strategy and looking at budgets, don't forget your studs. You do not want to forget to secure the guys you actually want. Okay? Very simple. So establish a clear budget, nominate players you don't want. Again, I kind of added this tip later there and I explained it. Monitor budgets and roster spots of other teams. Stay patient, but be aggressive on players you want. But stay patient. Don't get caught up in pick your moments, right? You don't want to get caught up in bidding wars too much. Stay patient. Maybe your player doesn't get doesn't get put up on the queue for a while, right? Stay patient, right? And then bid up the players, and then also last one, secure your studs. All right. So let's go over some values here real quick before we wrap this up here, just for fun. Let's go over some values here. Quarterbacks, expensive, $33. Like a typical expensive quarterback is $33. Again, Lamar Jackson is $25. Hurts is like $33. Allen is $33. A Stroud is $12. A Jordan Love, who I love, is $8. See, I'd rather go for like a Jordan Love as my quarterback. I don't have to pay as much. That's amazing value. And you can still get ace quarterbacks that are viable. Jared Goff is $8, right? Will Levis is free because he goes undrafted, right? In snake draft. So this is where I talked about, like, there is some crossover, right? There is some, you're aware. Like, example, Will Levis going undrafted in one quarterback leagues unless you draft him as a backup. And then he's zero value here. So you get like Aaron Rodgers for zero. You get Will Levis, Daniel Jones for zero, Bo Nix for zero, right? Bryce Young for zero, rushing upside quarterback at Bryce Young. Kirk Cousins is $1, right? Just to give you guys some context. Running back, CMC, $65. Breece Hall, $47. Bijan, 46. Saquon, 41. Is a nice drop off there, right? Joe Mixon, you got like a 28. Like a Montgomery's 22, right? But then there's some guys that are going to be RB1s potentially that are cheap, like a Chase Brown, potentially RB1, $9, right? Who else is there here? Where is Trey Benson? $5 for Trey Benson to get the RB1 to Arizona. I'm in on that, man. Sign me up. Bucky Irvin, who's going to be the clear 2 there, could earn the starting job because I'm not really sold on White there in Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving, $2. Tyrone Tracy, $1, right? You get a bunch of these sleepers, stash them. Again, it's very similar to like, your year-long, like the snake stuff, but instead of a late round pick, you're paying like peanuts to get them, right? So, wide receivers, obviously CeeDee Lamb, $58, Tyreek Hill, $57, very, very, very expensive. Puka, $37. Again, Puka, I have no interest in. I'd probably queue him up, let people spend money on him. Guys like Nico Collins, $27. I try to get people to pay more for guys like Nico Collins, who I think is going to bust. Guys like that. And then again, like I said, value at wide receiver. We talked about Brian Thomas Jr. for $4 here. Romeo Doubs, who's the one on his team, for free. I see him at a zero budget here on the Concheapsis rankings here based on budget. Amazing value, guys. Amazing value on these wide receivers. Xavier Worthy, $6. Don't care for him too much. Like Christian Kirk, $12. He's not even the one on his team. I'd rather get Brian Thomas at 4 than a Christian Kirk at 12. So what I would do is I'd queue up Christian Kirk. Let them spend money on Christian Kirk. I have no faith in that guy. Let him have him. You know what I'm saying? So Keon Coleman, like $0. Romeo Doubs, 2 wide receiver ones on the team for absolutely free. Amazing stuff. I would destroy these leagues in these auction drafts. Tight end, Sam Laporta, $23, right? Like, again, if you got 16 rounds last year, I was all in on Laporta. You would have got him for a discount and crushed your league, right? Let's see what are my other sleepers doing. A guy like, Ferguson's $13, not too much of a sleeper. I don't see him even listed here. Where's Ben Sinnott? I don't see him listed here. He's $0. Like, guy like Ben Sinnott, a guy like Theo Johnson, who's a sleeper, $0, right? So yeah, now you have some idea here on value, and defense are typically like $2, $1. You get them at the end. Same with kickers, $1 for a kicker. Okay. So now that we've gone over values and strategies, again, this is going to help you guys. Okay. So go ahead and grab 16 rounds, follow these tips. There's going to be an article below as well. Smash it, tap it, slap it, auction draft, fantasy football strategy for all you guys doing auction drafts this week. Hopefully this helps and give you guys a lot of insight. All right. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have an outstanding day. Keep the content rolling here for you. I'm doing lives in the evening. We'll talk soon, guys. Hopefully this helps you guys. Go enjoy auction drafts. I wish more people did it these days, just not as frequent or popular as it used to be. All right, guys, have yourself a good day. We'll talk soon.